All right, Chiefs-Texans preview. So you've heard it, I've heard it. Everyone's saying, do the Texans even stand a chance in this game? I've heard people say no, but of course that's not how football works. Every team stands a chance on any given Sunday or Saturday in this case. So let's talk about what can the Texans do to beat Kansas City? Because obviously Chiefs have had a much better season. They've won, I believe 5 more games in the regular season than the Texans did. They also beat the Texans just a couple of weeks ago, week 16, in fact, where both teams played their starters. So that's another thing that, is leading towards people feeling like Kansas City can win. They're 7.5-point favorites in this game. But let's get into some numbers. We'll talk about certain individual matchups where Houston does have an edge, and then we'll watch some film from that game and talk about how can that help us figure out what's going to happen in the future and what can Houston do to maybe have things go better this time. So in this video, we're talking Mahomes and we're talking the Texans defense. I'll make another video tomorrow where I talk about the other side of the ball and give my final predictions on who I think is going to win. But yeah, let's just get into it. First, as always, I like to start off with PFF grades for each positional category for these teams, just kind of to familiarize ourselves with where they're at. You see, Houston has a lot of solid stuff. Kansas City has a lot of solid stuff. I mean, interestingly, only one positional category is top 10. That is the Chiefs' run blocking, but there's a lot of solid stuff, right? I keep saying solid stuff. The Chiefs here are 17th in passing. It's Mahomes in the playoffs, 13 in passing, but it's Mahomes in the playoffs. You're going to get better than 13th passing, 20th in receiving. Texans 11th in coverage, but their corners have covered really well, especially as the season has gone on, and especially in that game against the Chargers. So they can man up against you. Don't get it twisted there. Also worth mentioning, Chiefs have had some injuries. They're getting healthier now. Hollywood Brown has come back and played these past couple of weeks, including in that week 16 game. They traded for Hopkins, so he's factoring in. And, of course, receiving is factoring in running backs and tight ends when they are receiving. So Kelsey is a part of that. Kelsey last year wasn't that great in the regular season, was awesome in the playoffs. Will he have a jump like that as well? The pass blocking and pass rushing is super interesting. So it's ranked 13th and 11th, respectively. I'm going to get more into that in just a second. But what's interesting is where the pass rush comes from. The Texans aren't the best inside, but they're great on the edge. The Chiefs are great inside, but have been shaky in the tackle position. So that could be advantage Houston. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Running game, Chiefs run block well. The Texans are okay at run defense, so we'll see how that goes. Chiefs are okay at just rushing the ball in general. So let's talk about the Chiefs' offensive line, but you might notice that I am having a lot of names here. What's going on? So the top 5 is who I think they want to be their 5 alignment. If they have everyone healthy, this is what they want to do. DJ Humphries, they signed towards the end of the year. He's someone who is a former Pro Bowler, but is coming off of an injury. Teams weren't sure if they want to take a chance on him. He comes along late and then ultimately gets banged up really early on. So he's a complete question mark. If he plays, he could be the left tackle, and then it's from left to right. You have a left guard of Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith as the right guard. That's as good as it gets on the inside. Jawan Taylor, not great, although is much better in pass protection than run blocking. That's also worth noting. These are out of I think 75 eligible players. The number you see next to them is where they rank according to PFF. So Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, PFF says they're each top 10 players, including Humphrey being the best according to them. But Taylor is a question mark, and DJ Humphries is a question mark. Who are the other 3 players? So the other 3 players are the other guys who could end up playing in this game or playing in different positions in this game. So Wanya Morris is someone who's been the backup tackle, but they eventually just said, this isn't working. Let's actually, let's add DJ Humphries. And even when Humphries went down, what they also did was they put Mike Caliendo at guard. So he played left guard, and they put Joe Thuney, who's now also at the bottom of the screen, to left tackle. The 2 numbers you see next to Caliendo and Thuney are their PFF grades. Caliendo, not a very good PFF grade, but it is a small sample size. Thuney, not great. The 58.9, that's how he was at tackle. His overall grade was 73.4. Actually, I'm phrasing this poorly. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult to explain. But essentially, I took the average grade for each game he played at guard and each game he played at tackle. The 58.9 was the average grade he got when he played at tackle. 73.4 was when he played guard. Now, it is worth noting, he's only played 3 games at left tackle. He played bad in 2 of them, good in 1 of them. The one he played good was Houston in Week 16, so that's worth noting. But basically, I'm taking a long time to say, Chiefs are very good on the inside, some question marks on the outside. And if you look at the Texans' pass rushers on the outside, Will Anderson Jr., Derek Barnett, Danielle Hunter, even Danico Autry, but really the Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. combo is just deadly. And if you can get a big mismatch on the outside, you can have some success, right? If you can get to Mahomes, that could be a way that you can look at it and say it's an advantage. So that's step 1 of all of this. Worth noting, Mahomes' numbers when he is blitzed and when he is not blitzed, if you apply pressure, his numbers actually go down. In fact, a 12-point PFF grade drop when he has been blitzed this season, a 7.5-point passer rating drop when he has been blitzed. Texans are middle of the road when it comes to the blitz, so we'll see if they try to apply more pressure the second time they play them. And by middle of the road and blitz, I mean like that's their blitz percentage is 15th most in football. This chart is also super fascinating to me. So, what do the Texans like to do defensively? It's a lot of zone coverage on first and second down, man coverage in obvious passing situations, which are usually third downs. You see here, so this is how the Kansas City Chiefs offensive players perform when they're going up against man and when they're going up against zone. The 2 stats are PFF grades and yards per route ran. You see that they have so many guys that are just good at both. If you just look at the yards per route ran, I mean, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, and Noah Gray, and even like Kareem Hunt, Justin Watson, and Marquise Brown. Brown's had a small sample size, but pretty much all of them are around just as valuable to their offense, whether they're going up against man or zone. They're essentially scheme-proof in a sense, and this is what the Chiefs have tried to do ever since they traded away Tyreek Hill, right? When they had Tyreek Hill, they were debatably the best long passing team ever, right? The only thing that I think would come close was the Randy Moss Patriot year in 2007. Like, they were so good at that, but they felt like when teams took that away, they didn't have as many other options. Now they have a ton of options. So even if it's not these superstars, although, again, Kelsey's going to be in the Hall of Fame, DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know Hall of Fame, but Hall of Very Good, and who maybe if he can get some longevity going, he's had Hall of Fame level years, certainly, if nothing else. Although maybe he's not quite that guy in Kansas City. He's still a good player, but it's just how many players they have and how many contributors they have. That's the key. If we look what happened last time these 2 teams played each other, because, again, we always question how much does it matter if these teams have played each other before. Well, sometimes it's like week 1, and it's like, well, these are completely different teams. Sometimes it's like this, where they've just played a couple weeks ago. Doesn't mean it's going to go the exact same way, but it matters more, right? Mahomes' numbers were not incredible, 260 yards on 41 attempts, but Mahomes hasn't really lit up the box score all year. That's not really their game of pushing the ball down the field, and we'll talk about what they do in just a second. But you see guys like Xavier Worthy, Samaje Perine had one really long reception that allowed him to be the second leading receiver, and Hollywood Brown had some catches, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, even Kareem Hunt, and Noah Gray had a catch as well. So, like I said, it's a lot of different guys contributing. The rushing was interesting. So Pacheco had kind of just come back from the injury and only had 2.9 yards per carry. Kareem Hunt had 5 yards per carry, though, and Mahomes carried the ball 5 times himself, had 33 yards and a touchdown. So they had some success on the ground game as well. But let's get into the film and talk about really, what they do. Let's start off with the offensive line, because the biggest thing you look at if you're Houston is, well, we got an advantage on the outside, right? We have 2 really good pass rushers. They have, at best, 1 okay pass protector in Jawan Taylor, and then whoever's going to be the tackle. This is Joe Thuney on this play. He was the left tackle going up one-on-one against Danielle Hunter. As you see when this play begins, so this is kind of just the Mahomes thing. If you see how far of a drop he has on this 3rd down and 13, is the line of scrimmage is at the 41. He's currently all the way back in Houston territory. I mean, he's over 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. So Hunter is trying to go to the outside, go behind the tackle to get to Mahomes, but then Mahomes is going to step up in the pocket. The interior does such a good job of blocking that he's able to rush and pick up a decent amount of yards on that play. So, that's just what Mahomes can do. Now, they didn't pick up the first down, but Mahomes can get around pressure. That's, what we know he can do. He's, I think, the best in the league at navigating the pocket. He's just so good at that. That's a factor. So, yes, they can get pressure, but again, getting pressure and getting to Mahomes are two different things. We'll see what happens. So what's going to happen in a situation like this? 2nd and 9. As I said, 1st and 2nd down, you'll see a lot of zone coverage. That's what the Texans are doing here. The Chiefs, you might run into this, or they might do something like this, which is, again, their mindset is let's push the ball down the field. It's let's methodically move down the field. We trust ourselves to not make too many mistakes. Mahomes is going to take the snap. He's going to just flip the ball. They pick up, 8 yards or so, 3rd down and short. They trust themselves to convert it. That's what you're going to see a lot of with Kansas City, is just slow, methodical style of offense, which can create situations like this one, where it's a 4th down and 2. The Chiefs are deciding to go for it instead of kicking a long field goal right here. It's going to be man coverage, and because again, that's kind of what Houston likes to do here. It's 4th down and 2. It's a yard and a half. I don't know, whatever. But watch what the Chiefs are going to do. So that's their concept. And really, this is where Andy Reid comes in. He's so good at scheming up plays, and I'm giving him all the credit. There's a whole offensive coaching staff, but they're so good at this, where you have all these kind of routes going over the middle. Mahomes takes a snap. The Texans try to get a switch here where they have someone else pick up Hollywood Brown, but it's just hard to do this so quickly. Hollywood Brown is open right here, and the ball is already coming out. Mahomes makes the play. Brown is able to make the grab, and they end up getting, to continue to drive right there. So the good news, if you're Houston, is you could get these types of situations. You could get 3rd downs and 4th downs. The Chiefs are okay giving those up. The issue is they convert at such a high level. That's where it can be trouble. And then also a play like this. So this isn't even obvious passing situation, but the Texans are still trying to play man coverage on this one. And the Chiefs are just going to have, again, a scheme to beat this. They're doing this, which is going to be essentially just a rub route right here. You have Samandre Pirine getting towards the outside. And really, I think you have to switch on some of these plays. Because watch how when this play begins. So you see Kelsey's just blocking. And why is he allowed to just block? Well, because the player who is covering the running back on this one for Houston, it's Christian Harris, the linebacker. You see he's not past the line of scrimmage here. I think fighting through these is going to be difficult. I think you want to pull off a switch. Of course, if you then try to pull off the switch, we've seen Kansas City take advantage of that by doing fake pick plays, which can also create some issues. But you're going to have to be disciplined here and make sure that you are covering everybody. Here, because of that block, Pirine is wide open and they pick up a big chunk play right there. So it's difficult. I mean, Kansas City's really good at beating this type of coverage that Houston's been really good at playing so far this year. But if you can get the pick plays out of the equation and force the Chiefs to have to just try and beat you straight up. Like, for example, this play, it's now a 4th down and 3rd down and 12. You see that they're obviously going to try and see if they can get the 1st down right here. It's a cover 1 blitz, which, like we said, Mahomes, early in his career, if you blitzed him, he would just throw a touchdown every play. But that's because they had Tyreek Hill. Now they don't really have that guy, although they still have a lot of good players. It's just a different team. So who can win in one-on-one? Well, you see, because of the blitz, Mahomes is kind of stuck in the pocket, has to get rid of the football, and you're able to play a good defense and not allow them to beat you down the field. I mean, that's what you have to do. I think a lot of cover 1 blitzes on key 3rd downs and then make sure you don't get beat by a pick play is their key to success. There's also one other key to success. Something like this, it's a 3rd down and 10. You see the route going more over the middle right here. It's Xavier Worthy's route on this one. Mahomes takes the snap. There's going to be a little bit of a window, but here's the thing about Patrick Mahomes. He is not perfect. He is not a god here. He will make mistakes, and I think when you see Mahomes lose, which he's lost 3 times in the playoffs, 2 was to Tom Brady, and then 1 was to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. In that Bengals game, it was a good example of Mahomes made some mistakes, and the Bengals capitalized every time. They got turnovers, including an interception in overtime. Here, that throw, I mean, listen, is that a mistake? I mean, Kamari Laster was able to get a hand on it. It would have been tough to get the pick. But if you can get a pick there, if you can get some turnovers, that can be your way to win this game. The thing about the Chiefs is that they're actually constructed offensively in a way that I don't love. So the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, they're built around slow, methodical drives. It feels like usually when you do that as an offense, you're never going to be elite because it's just so hard to consistently do it every single drive. If you try to run a 12-play drive, at a certain point, someone's going to commit a penalty. Your quarterback's going to make a bad throw that could be a turnover. You'll get a sack. Something will go wrong. But for Kansas City, they've been really good at it this season. They run the most plays per drive out of any team in the league, and they have a very high points per drive. So to sit here and say, well, because this can go wrong means it will go wrong would be foolish, because even though you look on film and say, well, this shouldn't fully be working the way it does, it is. And at the end of the day, if you can hit at a high rate on third downs, that's their key to success. And for Houston, I think you got to make those third downs a little bit longer, maybe try and stop the run a little bit better, and then you have to just do a better job at, again, being able to cover down the field. No guarantee you can win one-on-ones 100% of the time, but if this game comes to Mahomes trying to hit his receivers one-on-one down the field consistently, I don't hate the Texans' odds. So the Kansas City Chiefs' offensive points per drive this year is a good 2.33. It's actually cooled off a bit. Partially that Broncos game kind of throws a wrench in all of their numbers because of that, right? But still, they've been very good this season in terms of offensive points per drive. Texans have been pretty good defensively as well, a 1.99 defensive points per drive. And as I said, maybe getting hot at the right time. Some really good games down the stretch. And they've terrorized some good quarterbacks this season as well. Although, again, we saw Mahomes do a pretty good job the last time these two teams played. You see, the first time they played, it was a 3.38 points per drive, 27 points, but on 8 possessions. And that's the thing about the Chiefs, is there's that stat that's getting thrown around of like, oh, the Chiefs have, I think it's like they haven't scored 30 points in like forever. Well, when you only have 8 possessions, it's hard to score 30 points. I mean, they have the least amount of possessions in the league because they run such long drives. But of course, if they have less possessions, you have less possessions, which again could favor the underdog, right? You get a turnover or two, now all of a sudden you have less chances, and shortening the game typically favors the underdog. I think it'll be a worse day than it was last time. I think that, the Chiefs were able to hit at a really high level. I'm not sure that's fully going to happen again, and the Chiefs haven't been elite in the red zone. They were very good in the red zone, though. Well, at least they were pretty good in the red zone, I guess I should say, in that game. I still think the Chiefs are really good, though. So I'm going to expect a better than average offensive day for the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's kind of what happened last time. But I'm also not going to go crazy. 2.5 points per drive. That feels like a fair guess in this game. Will it be enough to win? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to my next video where I preview the other side of the ball, talk about what happens there. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. But let me know your thoughts on this side of the ball in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.